Hey everyone, we're back. It's episode 4 of The Bracket. This week's episode is the AXL ROSE region, the final region of our tournament. I'm your host, Dan Kaplan. Just wanted to give you all a quick heads up before we get started. Kevin Davis, our lovable third member, had some technical difficulties while recording this week. His computer shut down about 25 minutes into our conversation, so as a result, he is only going to be on tape for the last 15 or so of our discussion. I've edited the rest of the audio down to accommodate the gaps in conversation where Kevin was a part but not recording. So it should flow as seamlessly as possible between Corey and I. We'll hope you listen. If you're only in it for Kevin, then jump to about 28, 29 minutes in. Other than that, thanks for listening, and without further ado, the AXL ROSE region. Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, March 26th. We're back here for episode 4 of The Bracket for the AXL ROSE region. As you may recall, we've already gone through the Dave Mustaine, Mike Portnoy, and Kerry King regions, and this is the last one to get through before the big dance. I am your host, Dan Kaplan, and with me, as always, are my two esteemed colleagues, Kevin Davis, coming to you live from Baltimore, and Corey Butterworth, coming to you live from Nurgle's Urethra. Corey, how's it going?
So much urethra.
Must be a pretty dark place.
It's that's actually the best way I can put it. It's a very dark place.
So we are coming. We're a bit of a delay. We're recording, folks. You may recall we're recording episode 4 before episode 3 has even aired, owing to an unplayable 789-minute audio file sent by one Kevin Davis. Tonight we're coming at you with the AXL ROSE region, named of course after Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. Guys, any comments before we get started? Any dipshittery you're particularly looking forward to?
Kevin is focused and ready to go.
You're like when they play Breaking Madden and they set the player's awareness to 0. Player gets a ball thrown at him and turns to face it 5 seconds later. Anyway, so I guess without any further ado, then let's kick off the AXL ROSE region. Our 1-8 matchup, one that has actually surprisingly been the source of some contention between our group. Number 1, AXL ROSE, the regional namesake, versus number 8, Ted Nugent, the Motor City Madman. This is what Corey and I were getting into the other night. Axl is, within the musical realm, certainly a douchebag. No one is going to dispute that.
How did we so eloquently put it?
I believe the way I put it was, Axl Rose is more of a douche musically. Ted Nugent is more of a douche lifically. Ted Nugent is a dipshit for things that actually matter in the real world, in the grand scheme of things. Not that music doesn't matter in the real world, but I mean, we're talking about Ted Nugent is a giant gun nut. Ted Nugent is anti-animal rights. Ted
Nugent put up his first 2 kids for adoption. It's quite a list. Now, there have been some 6, 7, 8 seeds in this tournament that we've kind of written off as more filler people. Just, we need to fill up space. We needed 32 names. There's some guys that probably didn't need to be in here. I originally thought Ted Nugent was going to be one of them, and he was actually my original pick to lose, I should say, to not be as much of a dipshit as Axl Rose. Digging further into it, it kind of got my mind swaying a little bit. And what's interesting that you pointed out earlier, Dan, at one point, I believe, is that Axl Rose has kind of owned up to, what was Chinese democracy, what is Guns N' Roses, how it isn't really Guns N' Roses anymore. And that actually earns him a point or two in the not dipshit category.
Yeah, you'll recall he had an interview recently on I don't know if it was Kimmel or Conan, but I think it might have been Kimmel now that I think about it. But he's just sitting there and he's sort of like acknowledged the fact that he's gotten older, he's gotten fatter.
He's got cornrows.
Yeah, he sort of like took himself kind of tongue in cheek, which I mean I guess is maybe only about 10% of the AXL Rose persona, the other 90 being the percentages in which he takes himself super seriously.
Yeah. Basically, my thoughts were I was originally gonna go with AXL Rose because, again, like you mentioned, it's kind of just basically the politics thing, which we've, have touched on with many metal dipshits at this point. But for me, it's just like the level of dipshittery regarding politics and everything else in life. That just kind of like puts him over the edge a little bit for me. Again, I was completely with you, but just digging further into it, just reading like some of the things he's been quoted as saying and some of the things he's done, it's just so extreme, and it actually was enough to kind of flip my vote a little bit. So I went with Ted Nugent on this
The
one.
Nuge also, and one of the things we kept coming back to was, and to avoid double standards here, because I know we took points off people for this in previous matchups. Ted Nugent's his entire public persona these days is the one in which he puts his batshit political views forward, and I'm talking, like there was a comment where he called President Obama a subhuman mongrel. I mean, it's one thing to have your political differences, but when you're just going to make classless, like utterly distasteful remarks like that, I mean, if we advanced people in previous regions for shit that's far less offensive than that, we can't let that go unnoticed.
Right. And for me, another thing too, what pushes him through, and I'm going to need to bring up a couple points because it is an 8 versus a 1 here. This is a gentleman. This is a dude that is so pro-America, so pro, gun laws, everything else, so American to the core, and he's a dude that basically screwed his way out of getting drafted to Nam or whatever. I gotta find these quotes.
Why don't you tell us how exactly he went about doing that?
I'm trust me, I'm looking for it.
This is a good one
here.
This is a good one and a horrible one at the same time.
Right, it really is. In a 1977 High Times article, Nugent stated that he took crystal meth and defecated in his pants in order to avoid being drafted into the Vietnam War. Nugent reaffirmed this in a 1990 interview with the Detroit Free Press, stating that a week before his physical, he stopped using the bathroom altogether, virtually living inside his pants, caked with excrement and urine. So, America.
I think we can pretty safely advance Ted Nugent at this point into the regional semis. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we have our first ever 8-1 upset in the bracket. Ted Nugent, the 8 seed, advances to the second round. Our 4-5 matchup coming up. We have number 4 Gene Simmons, co-founder, frontman of Kiss, versus Chris Barnes, leader of currently 6 Feet Under, formerly Cannibal Corpse.
Right.
Guys, what do we think here?
Well, Chris Barnes was the first guy to turn gargling semen into a vocal style. So +1 there. I mean, Gene Simmons' list is pretty extensive. I'll let somebody else cover that. But I'm not sure if anybody really listens to 6 Feet Under. I'm not particularly into them too much. They're, I don't know, the flat vocals, the lack of any kind of creativity musically. Just one of those things where Chris Barnes, he's just basically a bad musician. What has he done outside of that? Not really a ton. Just a really, really bad musician.
He also whenever he's performing, he also looks like he's about to take a really epic shit. Like I know like death metal guys, they have to growl, they have to contort their faces, but Barnes, it's just like it's another animal altogether. He looks like there's some serious constipation going on there.
It's the semen. His vocal style is semen gargle.
Yeah. Anyway,
that'd be very different.
before we get too far off track.
Oh, wait.
What's
Hold
up?
on a second. I just found some material here.
On Chris Barnes?
One of our, as an Alpha Sigma Satan unit, one of our areas of entertainment back in the day was to read and to quote anal cunt song titles.
Rest in peace, Seth Putnam.
Right, exactly. Apparently there's been friction between Chris Barnes and Seth Putnam.
That's right. Anal Cunt had a song called Chris Barnes is a Pussy, didn't they?
That's it. That's exactly right.
Oh my
God. Apparently Putnam heckled Barnes during a 6 Feet Under set, leading to an altercation between the two, ending with 6 Feet Under's roadies ganging up on Putnam while Barnes fled to his tour bus.
Anytime,
Putnam then released a song "Chris Barnes is a Pussy" as a retaliation to the incident.
anytime Seth Putnam, like I feel like if you're a target of an anal cunt song, that's almost like a badge of honor, you know? Like,
I agree.
a badge of honor in the dipshit world, because I'm pretty sure Limp Bizkit. What was the Limp Bizkit song? Limp Bizkit think they're black, but they're just gay. That's what he.
That's what all we aspire for is to hear, an anal cunt song titled "Kevin Davis is a Pussy," Corey Butterworth is fat, Dan Kaplan, I don't know, his name is Saul. That's all we aspire for is anal cunt songs written after us.
And that's just it. Whenever anal cunt did songs, like you couldn't understand a word they were saying anyway. So,
it was just a minute and a half of nonsense, but it's okay. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the other side to Gene Simmons.
Yep.
There's a lot of material here. Actually, much more than I would have expected. I just sort of going into this, I sort of was just piling up points on Gene for being like a corporate business douche. But there's a lot going on here. Corey, you wanna cover some of it, or?
I just came up with the anal cunt thing, and I'm still pretty happy about that. So give me 3 seconds.
Number one, I'll let Corey regain his footing here. But number one, as we all know, Gene Simmons is originally Israeli. His name is not Gene Simmons. Yep. It's in fact Chaim something or other. But he wears his badge of he wears his badge of Judaism a little too proudly, going so far at one point as to declare Islam a vile culture. And then he was obviously forced into a situation where he had to retract that statement and clarify it and things like that. But that's always good to see. It's not like the Middle East has enough shit going on. From there, you can go to Kiss. Just recently got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Gene refused to invite original members Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. He's going to play with Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, who, to be fair, have been in the band a while, but how can you leave out Ace Frehley and Peter Criss?
You can't.
That's just a cardinal sin for hard rock and metal.
Just selfish and kind of a dick move.
Especially in one of the few moments where hard rock metal is being acknowledged by a more mainstream musical community.
Exactly.
It's a shame.
For better or worse. So one thing I want to touch on for Gene Simmons, I don't know how much of a dipshit this actually makes him, but it does show his at least douchebag level, a little bit different, I guess. Back in 2002, Simmons was interviewed on NPR, asking about his claim of having sex with 4,600 women. And his response was, "If you welcome me with open arms, I'm afraid you're also going to have to welcome me with open legs." So, that's just... for me, that's more of just, his attitude towards things. And
there was also, some more shit we have on Gene. There was also the Gene Simmons Tongue magazine. No, he started a magazine in 2002 called Gene Simmons' Tongue. For some reason, I don't know what the hell the content was, but it lasted 5 issues, and then he folded it. I think for now that covers quite a bit of Gene. Chris Barnes just sucks. He's not necessarily a dipshit, but he's just...
No, Chris Barnes is a terrible musician. He has that thing with rest in peace anal cunt, because let's face it, the band died with him. But aside from that, it's mostly just musical ridicule for him. So for me, it's Gene Simmons as well.
Yeah. So our 4 seed advances to the regional semis. Gene Simmons to face Ted Nugent. Our 3-6 matchup, we have Dez Fafara of currently of Devil Driver and formerly Coal Chamber. Against the 6 seed Brett Michaels, lead singer of Poison. This one was actually fun. I really enjoyed talking about this.
My lack of respect for both of them just made this so enjoyable. You got Dez, who, if anybody's aware of Coal Chamber, they kind of fell into that new metal phase. They were really bad.
They were awful.
Really bad.
They are awful because they're again a thing somehow.
2 years ago was a a reunion tour or something. Yeah, they were awful. For me, it's kind of a symbol of how Dez tries to move with the times and doesn't really just stick with his identity, because I don't think he's ever actually had an identity. I mean, certain things would imply he's kind of stuck where he is now, but that's neither here nor there.
There's such a desire for legitimacy. He's trying so
Right.
hard,
Right.
and I don't really know if he's ever going to get there. I mean, he's like I mean, the way I put it the other night, he's like the Chicago Bears of heavy metal. I don't really have any like hardcore like be all end all reasons to dislike him, but I just do.
Right.
But see, here's the thing. Like, we have to get beyond Rock of Love, because Corey and I we did some digging on Bret Michaels and found some absolutely hilarious stuff on the guy. Number one, I mean, not that this is in and of itself hilarious, but number one in the points against him being a douche side, he has been very supportive of the troops. He's played overseas at military bases, not necessarily as a political thing, but just, like, these guys are at war. He goes over and he plays for them just to entertain them.
Give him a show.
Which I have all the respect in the world for. But we have some other stuff.
I know it's next, and I'm so excited about it.
He has a line of pet clothing.
Pets rock.
Pets
That's what
rock.
it was.
Yes.
Pets rock. We're talking collars with the guitars on them. We're talking dog sweaters with skull and crossbones. Anything ridiculous, he's made it for a pet.
This is why, like, we can't hate him. Like, this is just funny.
Much like Rock of Love, it's entertainment value.
Right. He also put out an album called Jammin' with Friends last year, which was basically covers of Poison songs with, like, the most random assortment of guest performances you'd ever want to see. Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray guested on a track. Lil Jon guested on Nothing But a Good Time. Led off Nothing But a Good Time with his, like, Lil Jon-ness. It's honestly, it's one of the most hysterical things I've ever heard in my life.
Listen to the first 10 seconds. Listen to the first 10 seconds, stop it, and then you'll be entertained.
Oh yeah, it's
It's a thing.
Dez is just trying so hard to be something he's not. Bret is just like, whatever, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, and I'm cool.
Make money for it and entertain you assholes.
Yeah.
And that's a conclusion I came to as well. I'm in full agreement about that.
So I think we can safely conclude our 3 seed Dez Fafara is moving on. Alrighty, Dez it is. Next we have the 2-7 matchup. Phil Anselmo, the 2 seed lead singer of Pantera, down, formerly Superjoint Ritual, against the number 7 David Draymond, frontman for Disturbed. Phil Anselmo, who at MDF last year incorrectly referred to it as Milwaukee Death Fest.
That's a -1.
Yeah, that was actually. I mean, we sort of. I mean, Corey and I were talking about this. Phil is an asshole, but I think like that's just sort of his persona. Like his performer's persona, I should say. He's like a cocky SOB on stage. I know he had the fallout with Dimebag, which in and of itself was bad, but
he did put an effort into going to the funeral and everything, and he kind of got
shafted
for that.
He got shafted. Vinny wouldn't let him into the
exactly.
funeral when Dime passed away, and I mean, I honestly feel sorry for the guy.
Right, exactly.
For not being able to sort of try and pay final respects to his friend. On the other hand, we have Dave Draymond, who, I mean, number one, let's just break out the big guns right out the bat. He produced Trivium's new album.
Yep, he's through.
Surefire way to succeed in the bracket: being in Trivium or producing Trivium.
Yep. I mean, we can talk. I mean,
there was also, just as a quick final note, there was also, he's giving an interview one time about his influences in metal, and he was quoted as saying, "When you hear Whitesnake, you can't deny the greatness." between that and Trivium, I think he pretty safely moves through.
Oh God, yeah.
Just
I mean,
questionable life decisions on both counts.
it really is. Granted, a -1 in the dipshit category, so basically, one less level of dipshit form. He did marry some pretty awesome island hole.
Yeah, but therefore I hate him more.
True. And island hole is reborn.
And on that note,
and she's Japanese American, so thus island hole. Or if you're us, it's shirtless golf in a dormitory in Syracuse University. With
I don't know how this turned to shirtless golf. But
that's where it was coined, Dan. That's where it was coined.
Oh my God, I remember this. Okay, never mind. Island hole in shirtless golf terms, for those out there who don't follow, is a reference to TPC Sawgrass, a golf course set in Florida. 17th hole is an island, and we had many difficult times trying to play this hole on PlayStation 1 without shirts as sophomores. So
nobody succeeding in landing island hole.
We're so cool.
Dave Draymond's throw. Anyway,
Dave Draymond, I believe we have another upset on our hands. The 7 seed advances to the second round. So jumping back, going back to the first match, we have Ted Nugent, the 8 seed, versus Gene Simmons, the 4. Guys, what do we think here?
All right, here we go. Here's the actual paragraph. In 1978, Nugent began a relationship with 17-year-old Hawaii native Pele Massa. Due to the age difference, they could not marry, so Nugent joined Massa's parents in signing documents to make himself her legal guardian, an arrangement that Spin Magazine ranked as it was number 63 on their list of 100 sleaziest moments in rock. Ted Nugent is the parent of the thing he's boning. Weird.
Only number 63. That's actually kind of surprising.
I need to look into that list because I'm really curious now.
We'll do some research. Going back to the Nuge. There are so many just absolutely ridiculous things on this guy.
Illegal hunting.
His comments about, I mentioned before, touched on that he was anti-animal rights, has been quoted as saying, "I'm stymied to come up with anything funnier than people who think animals have rights. Just stick an arrow through their lungs."
Yep.
Referred to Heidi Prescott of the Fund for Animals as, quote, "a worthless whore and a shallow slut," asking who needs to club a seal when you can club Heidi.
Wow.
Yeah, he just goes there. He's it's just tasteless to the nth degree. Again, we have our political takes on things, but the important thing in any kind of political discussion, at least in my eyes, is to be measured about it and be, have your differences, but be respectful at least. And he's not that, number one. Number two, he's a musician who's trying to make his political views the centerpiece of his public persona, which we hate. As has been well documented in the previous episodes of this podcast.
He's I don't know, I find him a hypocrite. I find him ignorant. I just so one-sided, just so delusional. He's one of the most powerful dipshits I've ever seen in my life.
He also appeared in a Nickelback video, did he not, Corey?
Oh yeah, that's. If nothing else, that's what's going to push him through this bracket.
If we're going to push Dave Draymond through for producing Trivium, then we have to put Nuge through for working with Nickelback on anything.
Agreed. We should probably. Do we have anything else on Simmons? Anything? Anybody? We just bombarded the world with Ted Nugent dipshit facts.
It's
plastic surgery, too much of it.
Yeah, there was an absolutely. Oh, there goes Kevin.
Completely.
There was a picture. I'll get this graphic up here in a bit. Oh, there it is. Picture of Gene Simmons is just absolute plastic surgery failure.
Yep.
It was just he looks like a sumo wrestler.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. Like honestly, it's actually really weird. It's a traumatizing image. How much of a dipshit does it make him? I don't know if it actually makes him much of a dipshit, more than just kind of illustrates how much of a dipshit he already is.
The fact that anyone who hasn't been living under a rock for the last 15 years knows that there's been some crazy changes going on in the music industry, and people are scrambling to try and figure it out. Gene Simmons' approach, instead of trying to move forward and come up with new ideas for how to monetize music, is just content to do the ass backward strategy of suing people and hoping for the best. Trying to make an example out of that one asshole who is downloading his music because a $3,000 royalty payment is going to fix piracy. It's going to
Forever.
ruin it. Yeah. So
yeah, you get with the times. You don't try to fight them.
yeah. But
again,
these are elements of dipshittery which really only impact Gene, as opposed to Nugent, who we're getting into policy discussions. We're getting into real world issues.
And we're getting into Kevin, who's now back. Hi, Kevin.
Kevin!
Hold on. It's recording now. Basically, I lost everything that we said. They were fun words and stuff. I'm sure you'll hear just when Dan and Corey put them together, you'll just hear gaps being, and then you'll hear, good point, Kevin. That's very smart, Kevin. God, you're great, Kevin. And just imagine it was all genius splendor.
Oh man, that's a thing that just happened.
Good Lord.
Well, Kevin, we're talking about Ted Nugent and Gene Simmons. Anything on the matter?
I guess like we covered before, the whole Ted Nugent, actually his thoughts influence people's real world decisions.
Right.
Like,
correct.
The right side of the aisle really does like him and values what he says. And that's a problem if half the country takes his word seriously. He has that much of an influence, and he uses it to just say such filth.
Yeah, I mean, again, going, you know, the point I just made, I don't know if you heard when you hopped on, but, you know, Gene Simmons' dipshittery really only affects himself. Nugent's is potentially, you know, more widespread in its damage. Yep. So I don't think there's any question we have to move the Nuge forward here.
Yep, I agree. So now we got Ted Nugent going to the regional finals, and we got
the 8 seed going to the final round.
Woo!
8 seed, and we're looking at a 3-7. Dez and Draymond.
And now, Corey, I remember when we talked about this a couple nights ago. This just felt so inconsequential.
Honestly, I just don't care about either of these musicians. I just don't care. So my decision came down to really superficial decisions here. I decided to go with who had the worst fake goatee. We've got Dez, who's got a tribal tattoo on his chin in the shape of a goatee. And we have David Draymond, who has a metal piercing extending down like a big hoop covering his chin.
Let me propose something to you guys. Because either who we put there, Dez Ferreira versus Dave Draymond, whose dipshittery is so inconsequential.
Kevin, you're in fine form with these names tonight.
Wait, what?
Ted Nugent, Dez Ferreira.
I'm Steve rolling it, I guess. It's been a long day.
I'm fully okay with that.
Whatever.
Fully okay with that.
Okay. Either of those two aren't going to compete with Nugent. That's just how
You're
it
right.
is.
They're different leagues.
You're right, but back to the goatees.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we can do the goatee argument we want, and obviously, you know, the guy with the douchier goatee is going through, but Ted Nugent's just going to stomp him out.
You're right, but let's have a little bit of fun with this and talk about it for a minute. Dez, we talked about his tribal goatee here. Now, Dan, you actually corrected me on this one because I originally went with the douchiest goatee, which was, in fact, the tribal tattoo. That is a far douchier tattoo. It's a far douchier goatee. It's just a bigger douchebag.
Dez Fafara, of course, does not belong to a tribe. He's from California. He played football in high school.
Italian-American.
Italian-American. Yes, I would agree. Taken at face value, that's incredibly douchey. However, at a certain level, you look at it, a tattoo is permanent. A tattoo, at some level, represents a commitment to something. For Dez, it represents a commitment to a fake tribe that he was never a part of, but at least he went all out.
And he finally showed committed.
And as misguided as it was, he's committed to it. Dave Draymond just pierced his chin, and when he decides he doesn't want to be Dave Draymond Metal Star and wants to go back to being Dave Draymond Nice Jewish Boy from Chicago, he can take out those piercings and, return to normal. Which I don't think one approach is necessarily more dipshittery than another, but I mean, he's kind of a puss.
The decision to be committed to yourself has surpassed the decision to give yourself the opportunity to resort back to Nice Jewish Boy from Chicago. I have Draymond going through.
But Dez had the cognitive awareness to commit to such a shitty decision.
That's true. Dez also, I mean, if we're going beyond this superficial element, Dez also was in Coal Chamber twice.
Yeah.
If it wasn't bad enough that he formed Coal Chamber, he then reformed it. So
decision-making skills nil.
Yeah. I don't know.
I flip this.
I know we went with Draymond originally. I might lean back toward Dez.
I'm gonna go with Dez in this one.
Anyone that
I say Dez based on face.
we thought we were gonna let the goatees make the decision, but in fact it came down to Coal Chamber.
Kevin brings in real thought and brings down Draymond is out of the bracket.
This has been real.
Man.
This has been real talk with Kevin Davis.
All I want to be was superficial about goatees, and then Kevin has to bring real thought in and say, no, based on logic and using your actual brain, Dez is the bigger dipshit. And Kevin's right. So I can't argue it, I guess.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's a preemptive you're welcome. I didn't thank you for anything.
That shit's not free.
So at any rate, our 3 seed advances in a stunning reversal of fortune. 3 seed advances to the final round. Dez Fafara, Dave Draymond. Congratulations, you're not as much of a dipshit, but you still produce Trivium. Which brings us to the finals of the AXL Rose region. Ted Nugent, the 8 seed, versus Dez, the 3 seed. I mean, we alluded to this before. Can we, in good conscience, not go with the Nuge here?
No, we can't. But I just, I have to say this one thing just so I can get off my chest. If we're gonna bring back Cold Chamber, we should have brought back Trivium.
That's true.
Just saying. Cognitive decision making.
That's very true. However, Draymond produced Trivium once.
Yeah.
Dez was in Coal Chamber twice. He did one shitty thing at twice.
So all right. I'm still in agreement, but I did need to bring that back up again if we're going to revisit.
And if you think about it, Devin Townsend, who we all regard as a good person, the opposite of this bracket, has produced some shitty band as well.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Right. Fair enough.
So going back into the final, number 8, Nugent, number 3, Dez Fafara. I mean, what else do we have to say? The latest on Ted Nugent, which, shout out to Metal Sucks for bringing this to our attention yesterday, I believe. A town in Texas actually paid Ted Nugent not to play at their 4th of July event this year. Can anyone come close to that?
I guess what it comes down to is how much do we value ourselves? And if there's an afterlife, if we don't choose Ted Nugent, are we denying ourselves the possibility of a good afterlife?
There's a hell, and we're going to it.
If we don't choose him, yes. If there's a hell.
Yeah.
He's a really bad human being. It's not even a competition for me. I mean, you can get into the other quotes. You can get into the tweets that he threw to the world after Obama was reelected. It just...
Oh, yeah. Let's bring some of those up real quick. Just because...
Gladly. I'll go right down the list here. When I eventually find them. All right. So, following the re-election of President Obama on November 6, 2012, Nugent posted several angry tweets on Twitter because, passive-aggressive. Pimps, whores, and welfare brats and their soulless supporters have a president to destroy America. What subhuman varmint, V-A-R-M-I-N-T, believes others...
that's how you spell varmint.
Right. Believes others must pay for their obesity, booze, cell phones, birth control, abortions, and lives. because I guess everybody in America gets abortions. Good luck, America. You just voted for economic and spiritual suicide. Soulless fools. Yeah, I could get political on that and just ask him to compare and contrast the last 6, 7, 8 years versus the previous 6, 7, 8 years, but I'm not gonna do that. I don't know. The dude's an idiot. The dude's an idiot.
Just to cap it right off here, going a little bit further down Ted Nugent's Wikipedia page. In a January 2014 interview at a Las Vegas hunting and outdoor trade show recorded by Guns.com, yes, apparently Guns.com is a thing, Nugent was recorded stating, quote, "I have obviously failed to galvanize and prod, if not shame, enough Americans to be ever vigilant not to let a Chicago communist-raised, communist-educated, communist-nurtured, subhuman mongrel like the Acorn community organizer gangster Barack Hussein Obama to weasel his way into the top office of authority in the United States of America." Wow.
So basically, Chicago is not a part of the United States, but is in fact a communist country.
I can't. I give up.
What's he got against Chicago? Why is Chicago communist? What the fuck? Like, honestly.
Well, to be fair, I don't know if it goes so far as communism, but Chicago, its nickname, the Windy City, was in fact a reference. I mean, its long-standing nickname, the Windy City, is in fact a reference to its quote-unquote windy politicians. Guys who will change direction with a change in the wind, change their political viewpoints, their ideologies, with the times instead of standing for what they believe in. So
yeah,
Chicago,
that's not communism.
Chicago, right? Correct. Chicago. I can understand taking a shot at Chicago, but
yeah, okay.
Communist raised, communist educated, communist nurtured, subhuman mongrel. Yeah,
it's just no.
Yeah. Subhuman mongrel too. Like, what is that? I know
just,
we touched on that before, but that's Jesus Christ, dude.
It's just classless. I mean, honestly, this guy's through the region. And not only is he through as an 8 CD, it's not even close. It really isn't. None of the matchups were that close. Dude's a joke.
He's gonna be a favorite in the Final Four, which we will hopefully be recording next week. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty firmly in agreement with you. I think we have to advance the Nuge.
Yep.
So that'll do it for the AXL ROSE region. We have an 8 seed in the finals. Like, what is that? We have an 8 seed and we had a 6 seed coming out of the Portnoy bracket.
We have so far no number 1 seeds.
This is either parity or like we seeded this as shittily as the NCAA seeded the tournament this year.
In our defense, we did no research and just tried to find names and then just guestimated where they should be ranked. With no research.
That's true. That's not our fault.
The NCAA does extensive research and still fucked it up. So go us for being better than the NCAA on no research.
Very, very true.
We're not saying we're better than the NCAA.
We are, though.
But we're not saying we're not. All right.
Yeah, but we are, though.
Well, in that case, we will leave it here. Nugent emerges from the AXL ROSE region. And, we will come at you, hopefully get this posted ASAP, and we will be back next week with the Final Four and our championship. Kevin Davis, Corey Butterworth, any final thoughts on the AXL ROSE region?
It makes sense. Yeah, this all makes sense in hindsight, seeing this all play out. There's no one I'd rather see. I'm just picturing the documentary versus the Nuge.
God, that is
that's gonna be a war
in heaven.
Can we actually have these two fight? Like, just have them fight each other? I bet there'd be scratching. There'd be scratching, wouldn't there? Lots of scratching.
Well, it's going to be funny because as we saw in our image from the Jeff Tate region, Jeff Tate, the image we have of him is putting a gun to his head while singing a song from Operation Mindcrime. So in a fight between him and Nugent, Jeff Tate would put a gun to his own head. Ted Nugent would pull a gun on him. So we have Nuge in the finals based on that. Based on a fight to the death. But we are not fighting to the death. We are discussing dipshits. That one is going to be like a Louisville, Kentucky matchup. That's going to be like a hypothetical, if Syracuse hadn't shot the bed in basketball, that would have been like a Syracuse Duke round 3.
Yep.
it's going to be a primetime marquee matchup. And actually, I think to be fair to the other matchup, I think Jonathan Davis and Matt Heafy could be an interesting battle as well.
Either way, we're gonna have a hell of a final.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that'll do it for tonight then. For Kevin Davis and Corey Butterworth, I'm your host, Dan Kaplan, and this has been the AXL Rose region. We'll see you next week.